Hello and welcome back to the Shakey Sonnet Show. I'm Tootight Lautrec, the drag laureate of the Sonnetarium, and we're here once again in the Sonnetarium at the bottom of the down staircase in the permanently sequestered remainders section of an unnamed local library, which may or may not have a lion or two sitting on the front steps, soaking up the sun, wondering if there is anything new under that sun. And spoiler alert, no, nothing new. Today we're going to be looking at the Ecclesiastes-inspired Sonnet 59, and so I've donned my Sunday go-to-meeting clothes, just to add a whiff of propriety to the whole proceedings, and just a whiff. Pew! Is that propriety? So we're looking at Sonnet 59, which I contend is the beginning of the end of what I call the homecoming sonnets or the reunion sonnets that started round about Sonnet 51. And here we have another sonnet which is contemplating the passage of time in service of the poet's love and the poet's powers to preserve that love in the sonnet form. So 59 does take inspiration from Ecclesiastes, and I haven't talked much about Shakespeare's religiosity too much because I don't really know that much about it. I don't particularly see a religion-heavy Shakespeare in any of these sonnets, although there are references to things here and there. And it did get me to wondering how Shakespeare may have read the Bible, because this is indeed inspired by Ecclesiastes. And the King James Bible, I found out, was commissioned in 1604 and wasn't published until 1611. And as we know, the 1609 quarto of Shakespeare sonnets came out in 1609. So most scholars believe that Shakespeare probably got his sonnets from the Geneva Bible, which was the Bible translated into English in 1557. So if you've never read Ecclesiastes, I really do recommend it. It's quite an interesting book, and it's not really that long. It's 12 chapters, but they're 12 very short chapters. And if you're not going to read it for anything else, just read it for how many song and book titles you can find in it, like or lyrics from songs. To everything there is a season, the sun also rises, the house of mirth, to name a few titles and lyrics that you might find. So the main thrust of Ecclesiastes is that all is vanity and vexation of spirit in human life. And so there are only two options. 1, rejoice. 2, fear God. And although I'm not really, that doesn't really sit so well with me, that whole fear of God thing. But I took a little dip into the etymological pools, and I did find that for fear, because it's obviously a translation into English, for fear, one of its meanings may have been reverential awe, and that I can handle. Reverential awe, because I translate into Tootight terms as reverential awe equals wonder, and we're all about that. So wonder as a verb. Ecclesiastes, rejoice and wonder at the good, the bad, the beautiful, the ugly, because it'll all come around sooner or later. And if you don't pay attention and rejoice and wonder at all of the experience that you have put before you, everything will only be vanity and vexation of spirit. And I can stand behind that. And what better way to rejoice and wonder at love or a lover than by writing a sonnet, especially a sonnet about the passage of time. And that's what we've got in Sonnet 59. Now, Roz at Skelly Dandling About the Books noted in the comment section on Sonnet 56 that she thought that the narrator wants the feeling of being newly in a relationship, but separated by that metaphorical ocean, that metaphorical ocean that I couldn't quite get my head around. Separated by that metaphorical ocean and experiencing an intense yearning. So he wants the newness of love, but I think that 59 is the narrator's mourning of that newness that comes with first love, or the first blush of love, or the honeymoon period of love, because there is nothing new under the sun. And yet he's praising what he's got while he's got it. So let's take a look at Sonnet 59. Ready? Sonnet 59. If there be nothing new, but that which is hath been before, how are our brains beguiled, which, laboring for invention, bear amiss the second burden of a former child? Oh, that record should with a backward look, even of 500 courses of the sun, show me your image in some antic book, since mind at first in character was done, that I might see what the old world could say to this composed wonder of your frame, whether we are mended, or where better they, or whether revolution be the same. Oh, sure I am the wits of former days to subjects worse have given admiring praise. So there are a couple language issues here, but the first quatrain, if there be nothing new but that which is hath been before, how are our brains beguiled? Is there really nothing new under the sun? It turns out that there is nothing new under the sun, and this is plucked almost straight from Ecclesiastes. Laboring for invention, bear amiss the second burden of a former child. Now that's a bit of a twisted sentence there. Bear amiss meaning basically that you can't give birth to the same child twice, and by extrapolation I would say that you can't give birth to a new love a second time. So once something is born, it's born and it stays born for however long the powers that be decide that it will be on the earth, and but it can't be, the newness can't be regenerated over and over again. The second quatrain. Even of, oh, that record. Now it says record, but apparently the stress is on the second syllabus. Oh, that record, and record means memory. Oh, that record could with a backward look, even of 500 courses of the sun, show me your image in some antique, but it's pronounced antic, in some antic book, since mind at first in character was done. So this, since mind at first in character was done, is simply saying, since we started putting our thoughts into writing, so characters are letters, since mind at first in character was done, since we've been putting our thoughts down into words and into writing. And the 500 courses of the sun, if I could go back in time or speed up to time 500 years from now or 500 suns from now, but here I think it means more years because there's a different understanding of the astronomical revolutions of the sun and the moon and the earth at that time that I don't know anything really about, but I glanced at it and got bored and quickly wrote over it. But people say that it's 500 years. So if I could take a backward look from 500 years and show me your image in some 500-year-old book, I wish I could do that. I wish I could make it all new by looking at it again. I'd like to speed up time to look back and see you now in these sonnets. And in the third quatrain, that I could see, that I might see what the old world could say to this composed wonder of your frame, whether we are mended, or where better they, or whether revolution be the same. So I would like to go 500 paces ahead to see what the old world would say about this composed wonder of your frame. So this composed wonder could be, of your frame, could be the beloved's body, or it could be the sonnet, this composed wonder that I've made in honor of your frame. And the entire, this whole third quatrain is wondering about human progress. Does the do we really progress in any way, shape, or form, or does history just repeat itself over and over and over, and we learn nothing? So there's sort of a question of the idea of, will things progress to where things get better and better and better, or is it just the same thing over and over and over again? There is really nothing new under the sun. He would like to know that, or he or she, whoever is writing this poem. Oh, sure I am, this is the couplet. Oh, sure I am, the wits of former days to subjects worse have given admiring praise. And subjects could be either the beloved, could be love with a capital L, the whole idea of love, or it could be the contents of my sonnets. You could do worse, is all I'm saying. So it's a very nice little sonnet where it's again discussing the passage of time, but it's almost a bit of a time travel forward and backwards, so that one could look at the beloved and say, oh, you know, is there anything new under the sun? Is it possible that I can even portray your beauty to future generations? And could anyone look back on this and see the newness of your beauty that I experience as I'm experiencing it now? I'm hoping so, because I'm writing this sonnet for you. So whether there is a male or a female is unclear. There's no designation of one or the other. As far as dramatic possibilities, perhaps Back to the Future, I am your density. Possibly, I thought, maybe, because it is quite a heartfelt poem, possibly, and bear with me on this, I thought maybe if this could be a prelude to The Tempest, where we see Caliban in a more human state, where he's harking back to a nobler version of himself, and he is saying this to someone who he is in love with, and this is before Prospero chains him up and dehumanizes him. But it is quite a nice idea of traveling through time, and while still recognizing the futility of everything, because let's deal with what we've got now. W.H. Auden has some things to say about the sonnets, and I'll talk a little bit more about this when I talk about Sonnet 60, but he did do a lectures in Shakespeare at the New School in New York in the 1940s, and he does say that, and I'm going to ignore the fact that he says this, he states that there probably is a high possibility that there are many subjects to which these sonnets have been directed or could have been directed, and I'm going to ignore that. I'll talk about this in the next lesson, but I'll hark back to my own mythical invention that there's one lover and one beloved who fell in love, who were separated for 26 sonnets and have been reunited since Sonnet 51, and now we're at Sonnet 59. And in that context, we saw, in the homecoming sense, we saw a love in the honeymoon period, an ironic set, I say, of slave to love sonnets. And now again, we're seeing a narrator with the sonnet to him or herself about their abilities as a sonneteer, and also a contemplation on the passage of time. And it does make you wonder about why a narrator may be thinking about the passage of time in a love relationship, because the revolutions of time swirl around even the happiest of lovers, so there's always sort of a darkness on the horizon, and I think that adds a further poignancy to these poems. Because if we can't keep our love forever new, let's enjoy it now. We're here now. It's all we've got. Let's love one another and make it a party. Rejoice, wonder, pay attention. That's that's the son. That's what I have to say about Sonnet 59, and that's what I have to say to you. Rejoice, wonder, and pay attention. Until we meet again for our season finale, I'm Tootight Lautrec. Mwah.